Hello children, in this video I am going to share the steps for the construction of a simple shirt placket with facing. I have shared the video on simple shirt placket with you, and this is on a shirt placket that has a facing with it. The underpart would remain the same as we did in the previous case, that is a simple shirt placket. So here also the underpart remains the same. So I'm not going to prepare that. I'm going to prepare the upper part in this video. For reference in respect to underpart, you can always follow the video. You can watch the video on simple shirt placket and you will be able to follow the steps for the underpart from there. But I'll just brief it also to you that I've taken the right part of the front and have given an extension of 3 by 4 inches to the center front. Then for the facing, the extension is 1 inch and then a seam allowance of ½ inch. This is how the underpart was developed. For the upper part, because we have to prepare a facing separately, so the very first step is, yes, we have to prepare the extension. So we need to mark the extension first, and the extension remains the same, that is 3/4 of an inch. So I'm marking that here and we'll join the parts together. Yes, so this is the extension. We can label it also alongside. So I'm labeling this as extension. And now, instead of adding facing to this, we just have to add a seam allowance of 1/4 of an inch. So it's just 1 by 4 inches of seam allowance. That is what we need to add here to the extension. And this one part would get completed with this. So I'm just joining them together. Now this is the seam allowance. So now we'll add seam allowance. So the extension here is 3 by 4 inches and the seam allowance is 1 by 4 inches. Now for facing, we'll have to prepare a facing separately to this. And the length of the facing would be equal to the center front. So parallel to this, at a short gap, we can just draw 2 horizontal lines as they will help us work on the facing. Now after this, the next step is wherein I'm just joining them straight. So just because we'll have to just cut them apart. So this is just a first line that I've marked here. Now after this, I need to draw a marking at a gap of ½ inch. So first seam allowance for the facing that I'm marking is ½ inch. So this is ½ inch as the seam allowance. Join them together like this. Now the next is facing, and the width of the facing is 1½ inches. So I'm marking 1½ inches here from both the sides, and we will just join these two together with a straight line. So in this case, we are preparing a facing separately that will be attached to the upper part of the shirt. So you must have seen shirts wherein the placket is a little raised one. So this is the reason why it is raised, because many a times we prepare a facing separately and then we attach it to the shirt. So I label this as facing. And now we need to add a seam allowance of 1/4 of an inch to this. So just a tiny seam allowance will be marked. I'm working on a small scale, so I'll be preparing the placket also on a small scale for you. I'll show it to you on a small scale such that it's comfortable watching here through the camera lens. And we label this also as seam allowance. do not forget to mark the grain line also on the facing, because that's also important. See, most of the times we cut this facing also on a straight grain, but sometimes we even cut it on a cross grain, because this facing is anyways not going to undergo any amount of stress. So now let me just separate these pieces from this main sheet. So I'm cutting the facing part first, that has seam allowance marked on both the sides. So on one side the seam allowance is 1/2 inch, and on the other side the seam allowance is 1/4 of an inch. So children, please do not forget to like and share these videos with the students who need it, because the purpose of my making these videos is to help the individuals who are facing a lot of difficulty these days because of COVID, because of online classes. So please do share it with the individuals who badly need it, and the more you like it, the better it would be for others to look out or search easily for the videos that they need for their course. So please do like and share these videos, as this will help me reach to children in need. So I'm now cutting the other part, the upper part of the shirt now. So see, you can develop this particular placket on a small scale, you can do it on a full scale, you can just develop half of the shirt also for front, and because we just have to show the placket portion, we are not concerned about the remaining part. But then again, I would say whatever your teacher says, follow the instructions. But through this video, you would know the manner of developing the pattern, because this is important from your exam point of view as well. You should know the steps clearly, and you should be able to develop it also yourself. Now the purpose of this 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch of seam allowance is that we will have to attach this 1/4 inch of seam allowance with this 1/4 inch of seam allowance. So when we attach this, it will be a long strip that will be developed, and it will then be turned on top of the shirt for finishing purposes. So in my video on construction for the shirt placket, you will be able to see how the complete development happens, how I use the fabric, how do I do the marking, how do I stitch, and then do the finishing. So I hope you liked it. In case you have any doubt, you can always reach back to me through the email ID that I always mention in the description box, or maybe through the comments, and I'll try to get back to you. Thank you so much.